Alright, so, I thought this would be kind of fun. This is kind of like a video response. Don't you wish YouTube still had those? Of a video not too long ago, my friend Chris, aka the Mount Vernon Kid, did a while back of 10 writers he absolutely loved. Now, I love a lot of writers, and this list was really hard to make, but these are and these are not going to be in any number. This is not going to be like a top 10 list. These are just 10 writers I absolutely love. Now, keep in mind, these aren't like I'm not saying like these are the 10 writers you need to read and all of that and the others suck. I'm not saying that. In fact, this list was very hard because there's tons of writers out there that I really love. Kelly Sue DeConnick, Roger Stern, anyone who isn't Dan Slott. Well, even then, Dan Slott has his good comics. Few and far between. There aren't a lot of writers I really absolutely just will not read, and there's tons out there. In fact, there were some. This list has a lot of, just a lot of had a lot of writers. I had to like whittle down to 10 writers I always come back to no matter what. Like, these are guys I will always read no matter what. If they show up, I'm gonna read it. Like, I'm gonna read these. I'm gonna read their comics. Jed McKay was gonna be on. Jed McKay is on it. Is an honorable mention, real quick. Like I said, Kelly Sue's another one. Roger Stern. A ton. There's a ton, really. So, let's. Yeah, and as always, if you guys have, I'm always curious. What are your 10 writers? Again, this isn't a top 10 list. This is just 10 favorite writers who I always enjoy whenever they got a new comic out. So, let's get started with this list, shall we? Yeah. So starting off, we have Mark Waid. To the shock of no one, Mark Waid's one of my favorite writers. Mark Waid is by far one of the most prolific writers in comics. 2 words: Kingdom Come. That's all I need to say about Mark Waid as a writer. Absolutely brilliant. He has done phenomenal work from both Marvel and DC. He has more or less done so much for the industry and keeps wanting to write. Like, that's the thing. Like, he doesn't need, like, Mark Waid really doesn't need to prove anything at this point. There's really absolutely nothing he needs to prove as a writer at this point, but he's just like, fuck you, I'm Mark Waid, I'm still going. Like, I'm still here, I'm still standing, and, just eat a dick, I'm Mark Waid. That's really all I can say. Waid has been one of my favorite writers. No matter what he does, I am gonna check it out. And yeah, I'm not gonna say like every book Mark Waid has written is awesome. His All New, All Different Avengers, yeah, but to be fair, All New, All Different didn't seem like it had any fucking direction. So I'm not gonna put the blame on him. This guy, this is just a absolutely great writer. Again, just look at Kingdom Come, and that's all you like. If anything, you can all say like, but Kingdom Come though, right? Like, that's the thing. Also, I apologize for sitting in the dark. Jesus. What's wrong with this lighting? Anyway, so moving on to, I wrote it down, by the way. Right, next up we have Donnie Cates. Donnie Cates is by far one of my favorite modern writers, and I really wish him the best for whatever's going on in his life. This guy just came out of nowhere at Marvel. He just showed up at Marvel and just hit the gas. Like, he's made Venom one of the most interesting characters in Marvel, which is something I never thought I'd say. Making Eddie Brock Venom cool, and not like just a cool picture. It's actually like a decent story. Death of the Inhumans, his Guardians of the Galaxy run, which I'd love to get in total collected trade. His Hulk story, which was tragically cut short. His Thor run, again, tragically cut short because of personal problems. And his independent work. My God, from Redneck to Vanish to oh my god, God Country will fucking emotionally destroy you. If you want to read God Country, I'm just giving you a fair warning that, like, that comic will fucking ruin you as a human being. And not, like, in a bad way. I mean, like, you'll just be on the ground crying. I've tried to get my girlfriend to read it, but when I gave her the description, it was a little... in fairness, it's a little too... the storytelling of it hits a little too home for her, so she's like, I'm just gonna pass. So just letting you know, it's a tough one. Anyway, so Donnie Cates also, like, takes stuff you would see from the 90s and just make it awesome. Like, I would love to see him write Spawn over at Image. Todd McFarlane, just let him write a Spawn story arc or a miniseries. For God's sake. It's clear he has gotten a lot of inspiration from Spawn. Yeah. So... And also Silver Surfer Black. That's another great one. And he created Null. And King in Black was a really good event. He's a really great writer, and I hope he comes back to Marvel and gets back to writing. Oh yeah, Vanish. There's another great... I think I mentioned it, but yeah, Vanish is another great story. Now, moving on to Grant Morrison. What more can I say about Grant fucking Morrison other than they are one of the most prolific writers... I cannot say that word tonight. One of the greatest writers in comics of all time. He wrote arguably my favorite comic of all time, All-Star Superman. Probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest, Superman story, and my favorite comic of all time, All-Star Superman. The dude has done so much for the industry, and he keeps going, even though he says, like, I just don't want to do it anymore. But at the same time, you can clearly see that they have this voice to them. And yeah, Grant Morrison's comics are not for everyone. I will say that. It's some deep thinking. Like, and also, you might need drugs to understand some of the work. But by God, once you get into it, there's no going back. And it's a fun ride. And of course, if you really want to check out really fun stuff, check out his Justice League of America run. And yeah, it's clear he has a lot of reverence, especially for the DC universe. I will admit his X-Men can be a little iffy. I think there's some good there, but at the same time, But yeah. What more can I say, really, about Grant Morrison? What can I say about them? Next up, Gail Simone. There were going to be a lot more female writers, like, again, DeConnick, Willow Wilson. I like her. But there was so little to do on this list, and I didn't want to make it I didn't want to make this list too long. But Gail Simone is one of the best female writers in the industry. She has this dark sense of humor. She had a really cool run in Deadpool back in the 90s. Yeah, she wrote Deadpool. My favorite thing from her is, of course, like, as we all know, like, she's, of course, known for Birds of Prey, Batgirl, some stuff in Wonder Woman. But the big thing that I think is her best work by far is Secret Six. I think Secret Six from pre-52 era was some of the best writing from not just her, but at DC Comics at the time. That comic is nothing short of this dark humor, and also it can go from funny to, like, I feel depressed now and I don't like that. It's amazing. It's actually kind of a work of art. I think it's some of the best stuff, and it's one of my favorite comic runs of all time is Gail Simone's Secret Six. It's a wonderful book. I think it's some of her best work. And again, I'm not trying to take away from her other work. Of course, my girlfriend really likes Gail Simone for Red Sonja. Yeah, she's been writing Red Sonja. She's also been doing a lot of stuff at Dynamite. Great writer, just all-around great writer. What more can I say? So next up, Tom Taylor. Tom Taylor, I've really enjoyed his work, and he's clearly climbing up in the ladder, and now going DC exclusive. Although I will admit that leaving Marvel to be like, fuck you, I'm going to DC. Here's Dark Ages, half-baked book. Yeah, but still, his work over at Marvel and DC, great stuff. I think he has a great voice for characters. He has a great voice for Jonathan, especially for John Kent, especially, who was kind of damaged after Bendis left him. which can say a lot of writers can say a lot after Bendis damaged a character, but he made John Kent his own character. Same with Laura after she became Wolverine in All New Wolverine, one of the better books from the All New, All Different era. And of course his Injustice books over at DC, really making branching out. The Injustice books over at DC Comics was amazing too. So yeah, I'm always down for him for his work. Next up, Peter David. Peter David is when you think. Okay, let me ask you. When I say Peter David, who do you think of really? Like, who do you really think of? It's the Hulk. He wrote the longest run in comics with the Hulk. And not only that, he's still doing comics. He's still out there being a trooper. Only now he gets to play with characters and no one has to bother him. Symbiote Spider-Man, Maestro, the Joe Fixit miniseries. I think he did a Fantastic Four miniseries, the new Fantastic Four miniseries. He's just like, I get to play in my own little sandbox now and no one can stop me. He has some dark, much like Gail Simone, it's dark humor and some just kind of, it can go from fun to depressing and also thought-provoking multiple times over. Also, I really hope there's been some medical stuff that's going on in David's life, so I hope he gets better. I would be totally crushed if he died. I don't need that in my life right now. Next up, we have Simon Furman. Now, that's a name most of you would not know unless you read Transformers. Good fucking Christ. This guy is the okay, I've always said this before, and Chris Claremont's another honorable mention, of course. It's Chris fucking Claremont. But Simon Furman, for those who don't know who that is, this guy did to Transformers what Chris Claremont did for X-Men. In that, he took a franchise that no one really wanted and knew what to do with, and made it and brought out the building blocks for something great for these characters. He made this universe his own, straight from the Marvel comics when Transformers was over at Marvel, and then when they went to wherever they went, Simon Furman wasn't too far behind. No matter where the franchise goes, he's always not too far behind, and depending on where they go next, Simon's probably going to be there. Just on that work alone, he is a science fiction writer, but the reason I put him on this list he did so much for the Transformer comics that have been copied from comics to video games to even stuff you would see in the TV shows and movies to this day. So if that, like I said, he is the Chris Claremont of X-Men, of Transformers. Again, Claremont gets also an honorable mention. A lot of people getting honorable mentions. Next up, we have next up is a person who has been really shooting up in the ranks for me for favorite writers, and that's Al Ewing. Al Ewing, of course, from Immortal Hulk. That's probably one of the best Marvel books to come out of there, and I'm not just saying that as a Hulk fan. Al Ewing has this great sense of character, and he can go from sci-fi to horror, and also deep stuff, heartbeat. He has clearly made a stamp for himself as a writer over at Marvel, and maybe I would love to see him do stuff at DC, but he has clearly shown that he can be this kind of force of nature, and Marvel knows it, of putting him on all these other projects. Chris actually sent me his entire run in a trade. Thank you again, Chris. I forgot to thank you for that. So that was really cool, and I can't wait to get around to reading it. But yeah, there you go. Al Ewing. Next up, Chip Zdarsky. Chip Zdarsky is another one who's been shooting through the ranks. Of course, his Daredevil run, which has been nothing short of epic. His Batman run, which the second story arc ended with a beautiful love letter to the Batman mythos in of itself. And this is a guy who is like, fuck you, I'm Chip Zdarsky. Yeah, it's that good. And, of course, his Spider-Man work from, of course, Life Story, and his Spectacular Spider-Man run, and again, Daredevil. It's probably been one of the best Daredevil runs since, it's up there with Frank Miller. It's that good. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know what else to say about Chip Zdarsky. And finally, Tom King. Now, I know some people are like, ah, Tom King, really? Yes, really. It's my list, my rules. Tom King, again, I think his Batman run at the beginning is good. Falls off after War of Jokes and Riddles. But I think where... and again, final Heroes in Crisis, while I don't think is totally his fault, I think that was Dan Dickhead meddling with his event and what he wanted to do with it. But Tom King works best when he's not doing an ongoing. So I'm wondering how I am excited for his Wonder Woman book. And I wonder how long he'll be on it. But he works best when he's on like a mini series. Like if it's like 6 to 12 issues, you have got a book right there. You've got like his you've got, of course, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, which is getting adapted into a movie. You have great Batman miniseries in of themselves, too many to name. Human Target, which I've heard is nothing short of great. He's an amazing writer. He just needs the right stuff. I haven't read Sheriff of Babylon, but I've heard like that's what got him in the door for DC. I think that's a Vertigo book too. But anyway, so there you go, guys. That is pretty much my 10 favorite writers, and this list was really hard. There are tons of other writers I really love to read, whether it be Kurt Busiek, Kelly Sue DeConnick. There's a lot out there, so it was really hard to make this, and I'm not shitting on other writers and saying these are only 10 writers that you need to read. No, I'm not saying that. There's always tons of other writers. I just didn't want to make this video too long. We're already pushing near 20 minutes, so yeah. So you guys tell me in the comments below, what are 10 of your favorite writers in comics? Just comment below, let me know. I'm always excited to see what you guys have to say about these. But other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.